including the dial pad anytime someone needs to enter a number is something we found that just makes the whole process faster and easier. In another prototype or another version of our prototype, a user had to press the number field to open the native Android keyboard. But in this prototype, that keyboard is built into the screen. And in our final concept, we're taking the approach of building it to the screen as much as possible. A number of participants really struggled to know that for me to enter an amount, first I have to tap this field to make it active, which then brings up the keyboard. And furthermore, they don't really need things like the hash symbol, the star symbol, all these other extraneous things that are in the native keyboard. So how can we give them the simplest keyboard possible and then putting it on the screen so right away they know, okay, I need to enter a number and I'm going to do that by pressing these numbers. Well, I pointed this out when I was showing the prototype, but in this example, as a user types the amount, they are seeing the fee and what the corresponding total is update in real time. So with each number I press on the keyboard, I'm seeing that change. I'm understanding that there's a fee associated with this. I'm understanding that the total is something that I'm paying. It's not something the recipient is paying, which was a point of confusion for a number of the participants who were not as familiar with mobile money services. It wasn't clear to them, does this total mean what I'm paying or what the recipient is receiving? It wasn't clear where the fee came from. So yeah, here's a close-up of that. And then finally, giving people access to the transaction history. In one of our prototypes, we actually made this the homepage. Our concept was all about the fact that we thought people would, by showing them the transaction history, they'd be able to find the recipient that they wanted to send money to. If people only transact with 3 or 4 people, most likely they're going to show up in this history. So let's put that on the homepage, and they could easily access those users. That idea bombed. People did not know that pressing one of these would allow them to send money again to one of those people. So that's why we took a step back, made the home screen much simpler. But at the same time, having the transaction history, of course, was really important. So we've included that as its own icon on the home screen. We're calling it record. Another thing that we tested a lot with participants was the terminology. We were using transaction history in all our prototypes. People didn't really understand that, especially as you translated it to Urdu. The word that worked the best and was easiest to translate to Urdu was record. So we chose to incorporate that into our design. Making it very visual as to whether this is something, whether the record indicates it's money I've sent or received. So money I've sent is red and has an arrow going away from me. Money I received is green, has an arrow coming towards me. Participants were really able to recognize what that meant. The arrow pointing the direction with a combination of the color just made that very visual, very easy to recognize. So the next use case I want to talk about is how people get help and support throughout the experience. And again, I'm just going to highlight some of the key elements. In the design toolkit, they'll be coming in the coming weeks. You'll get more detailed screens about this. So anytime in the experience, I could open up the assistant. I'm going to get contextual help about what step in the process matter, what screen I'm looking at. So even if I'm in bill pay, I can open the assistant, and the assistant's explaining to me, this service allows you to pay your bills. In this example, we're using a video. That might not be too realistic given bandwidth constraints, but thinking about different media that you could put in here to make it visual, make it interactive, and then a button to be able to call customer support or get additional help if this explanation was not sufficient for the user or if they're still struggling. So every step in the transaction flow in our prototype and in the screens we'll share, we show what accompanying information from the assistant would help a user understand what they need to do and how we can make that visual. So in this example, it's the CNIC number showing the national ID card, is so people start to associate, okay, that's the number that's on my card. And then, so having this assistant throughout the experience tested really well with our participants. They really appreciated having it there. Even if they didn't need it, it provided confidence. They knew that there's something there that if they needed it, they could rely on. And even people who absolutely would not need it because they were very sophisticated smartphone users, they've been using mobile money, we actually were concerned that this would be obtrusive or they would think it was pandering to them or just would get in the way. But they actually said, no, 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 keep it there. Because sometimes I might give my phone to the guy that works in my shop to send money for me, and he might need the help. Or I might be showing my mother how to use the service, and I could show her these steps. So even people who don't always need help still, I think, appreciate having help very easily accessible. When possible, error notifications should happen in real time and shouldn't wait for the user to try to progress before they're told they made a mistake. So in this example, the user is typing in how much money they want to send. They've typed more than what their current balance is, and they're being notified of that right away. Becomes red, there's a little explanation, shows them what their balance is. So they're not trying to go to the next step and then realizing they made a mistake and feeling bad about it. They're getting real-time feedback. The assistant is not only explaining explanations, but is a channel to give recommendations. And can give actual very useful recommendations just on very simple behavior or very simple activity that the customer is already doing. So this example, we see that your balance is getting low. The assistant is offering them an option to find where the nearest shop is. And it was funny actually in our prototype when we were showing this screen where it's suggested recipients, they sort of perceived it as reminders. Not as like, here's the most recent people I received it to, but they recognized them as reminders, which they thought was really useful. Like, yes, I do need a reminder that my Lesco bill might be due soon. So these types of just recommendations not only hopefully provides shortcuts or helps users identify new features, but is also giving them confidence and trust and helping them appreciate that the service is there to help them achieve things that they need to get done. The last use case that I'll share today is about marketing. So how can we use the smartphone app as a channel to help make other features more salient, to help introduce new features as they're introduced over time. So in this example, suppose we know that the participant or the customer has been using our service for months, but they've never used the service to top up their airtime credit. We could use the assistant to help make them aware that, hey, did you know that this is possible? This is the same image we used in that onboarding experience to help them understand what it means and where they can go in the app to access that. Images, videos, or other types of more rich media can be used for more marketing style messages. So in this example, we've kind of branded the assistant space, and the assistant's promoting a holiday marketing promotion. So reduced fees for the next 24 hours. That's just an example. Also integrating with social media. We didn't test this as such with participants, but pretty much everybody we met had a Facebook account. We're using WhatsApp, so social media, even for people who were just using their smartphone for the first time, is something that people are familiar with and comfortable with. So in this example, the assistant is saying, congratulations, you just paid your electricity bill. Tell your friends how easy it was. So this is what they would see after they've paid the bill. They could press share on Facebook, and then on their Facebook timeline, for example, it's going to say, I just paid my electric bill from my phone. We think people will feel, when people are doing these things for the first time, there's actually a lot of satisfaction that they have, a lot of joy they have. Alex shared the insight that once someone has a successful transaction, they almost always go and show their friends or family how they can do it too. So how can we use social media to build on that behavior, but also think of that as an opportunity to attract new customers as well. And then it goes the other way around. So this is Android notification that someone is seeing on their phone from the assistant or from the service that's saying, hey, your friend just paid her electricity bill. You can too. And if they swipe that to unlock their phone, it takes them to the app and the assistant saying, like, are you ready to pay your electricity bill? Let me show you how to do it. So once people's social media accounts are integrated with the service, we can start to surface different actions or behaviors that their friends are doing and use that as a way to help encourage people to try new things or to take their use of the service to the next level and help them feel comfortable and confident doing that because they know that their friends are doing it as well. That's just some of the key design choices that we made as we approached our final concept. I hope they illustrate how our prototype testing was able to inform these decisions and make us feel confident that these are appropriate choices to make. Of course, once you have your MVP in the market and people are actually interacting with it, you'll get more data, more feedback, and you could continue iterating these concepts. So what we'll share next week or the week after is the design toolkit. This will be a PDF, and also we're going to build a little website where you could access a lot of the source files that we use to make these designs. So this design toolkit will have information about our methodology. So some of the stuff that Alex already explained to help you understand what our approach is, what our process is. An overview of the app. So what do we think are the key design decisions that are supported by our research? We'll show you the flows of each wireframe and each step of the primary use cases. And then we'll give you the design components. So we'll actually give you links to go download all these icons, to go download high-res images of those onboarding illustrations. And if you want to try to incorporate those, you're welcome to. If you want to just have them as a reference and deconstruct them and apply them to your own needs, we encourage you to do that as well. And then also in the design toolkit, we're going to give you more resources and more practical tips on how to get started. So whether that's more resources where you could read or some ideas about what next steps for your team could be in actually taking our toolkit and applying it to your own work.